Today, I'll be reacting to the ugly truth of Larry Bird's downfall. So, let's go right into the video.
You guys know who Larry Bird is, right? A three-time MVP, a three-time champion, an absolute legend. One of the greatest players to ever step foot on the NBA court. Every story, every news article about Bird glorified him to no end. Everything from his ridiculous play on the court to his mystifying trash talking. With an endless number of players sharing stories and experiences with Larry that almost seem like a fantasy. In the eyes of the NBA fanbase, there's an aura surrounding Larry Bird, almost like he's untouchable. However, there have also been some times in his NBA career where he looked vulnerable. In fact, towards the end of his career, in addition to the numerous injuries he suffered, he ran into a lot of conflicts within the Celtics organization, and his teammates as well. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at the fall of Larry Bird. What went wrong? What happened with the relationship between him and the rest of the Celtics? Was there anything more to his early retirement than just his back problems? The year is 1988. Larry Bird just had the best statistical season of his entire career, with a whopping 29.9 points per game, along with a much lower turnover rate than usual. At 31 years old, was still...
Man, them stats are insane! That man pretty much... Wait, hold up, let me go back, hold up.
With a whopping 29.9 points per game.
This man, Larry Bird, pretty much averaged 30 points a game, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, shot over 50% from the field, over 40% from 3, and over 90% from the free throw line. Larry Bird was hooping. Larry Bird was different. Like I always say about Larry Bird, he had no weaknesses on offense. He was an absolute beast. 50, 40, 90 while averaging 30 is insane.
Of his entire career, with a whopping 29.9 points per game, along with a much lower turnover rate than usual. At 31 years old, was still absolutely killing it. Throughout the season, he garnered a ton of praise, cause as he got older, his longevity came into question. But for a short while there, he was crushing his doubters. As a team, the Celtics won 57 games, but their playoff run came to a screeching halt. In the conference finals, they would fall to the Pistons in 6 games, with Bird having an absolutely terrible performance. Now, at this point, Bird was still at the top of his...
I have 2 things to say. Well, in that conference finals, Larry Bird, he averaged 20 points a game, 12 rebounds. That's good, but the shooting percentages was horrible. He shot 35% from the field and pretty much 30% from the three-point line. He was shooting horrible. Like, the numbers look good, but the shooting percentages were horrible. But also, too, I want to mention the Pistons and Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas beat Michael Jordan in the playoffs. He beat Larry Bird in the playoffs. If I'm not wrong, did he beat Magic Johnson in the playoffs, too? Like, people don't talk about Isaiah Thomas enough for me. I know this is a Larry Bird video, but I just want to discuss Isaiah Thomas real quick. In my opinion, he's on a Mount Rushmore of point guards. I think it's Magic Johnson number 1, Stephen Curry number 2, Isaiah Thomas number 3, and I think John Stockton number 4. Yeah, but people don't talk about Isaiah Thomas enough. Isaiah Thomas was sweet.
Finals, they would fall to the Pistons in 6 games, with Bird having an absolutely terrible performance.
Wait, I can't forget either. Detroit Pistons was a great team too. Even though they were the bad boys, they beat up everybody. They still was a great team though.
Now, at this point, Bird was still at the top of his game and nothing seemed wrong with him. He just had an off series. That was it. Unfortunately, his career quickly came crashing down. Over the summer, it was discovered that he had foot problems that went unnoticed in the previous playoffs. Bird isn't exactly the person who wants to let people know that he's hurt or he's struggling, but he was. It wasn't the first time either. A few years prior, in 1985, Bird suffered a back injury when helping his parents shovel and clean up their driveway. The worst part of this is that Bird never wanted to let the Celtics know about it. He always wanted to play hurt and didn't want to make a big deal out of it, even though it was a big deal. Apparently, according to this article, quote, "The injury was so extreme that he commonly needed to relax for hours at a time, either in between games or in some cases even throughout as well after them. From 1987 to 88 onward, he would have to have his spinal column straightened before a number of the games, merely to be able to get involved.
What? That man had to get his spinal column straightened before every game? Well, this is before a number of games. That's insane! Oh man, them back problems was no joke with him. It's just a messed up though that he had them back problems while helping his parents. That's messed up. That's messed up. I don't think I'm wrong, but he had back problems. In the video, he had foot problems. I think he had Achilles problems too. And he was playing through all of that. Yeah, Larry Bird, he's most definitely one of the toughest players ever in NBA history. If not the toughest, but he's definitely up there. That man played through everything. Oh man, that's insane getting your spinal column straightened. That's insane.
Straightened before a number of the games, merely to be able to get involved. It accumulated even further at the start of the 1988 to 89 season. After playing just 6 games, he underwent surgery on his foot, and it forced him to sit out the rest of the season. But once again, this wasn't anything new for him. In his sophomore season of high school, he also suffered a broken foot and sat out for an extended period of time. The problem is, just like with his back problems, he didn't want to let anybody know about it. He tried to hide it, which made it even worse. It definitely contributes to his reputation of being a, quote, tough guy. It was honestly a stupid thing to do. Had he sought out treatment earlier, maybe his career would have lasted longer.
Now, I'll say this. Okay, the guy in the video, he said it was kind of stupid. Now, I do agree he should have told the medical team or athletic trainers on the team that he was injured. But the thing is, I'm conflicted with that it was stupid. My favorite player, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was the first player that made me like basketball. So I'm used to Kobe Bryant playing through anything, unless it was real serious, like an Achilles or something. Larry Bird, now, what they said, after 6 games, he had to get surgery on his foot. Okay, that's one thing. Like, you need surgery. You can't play on that. But everything else is like, I really can't say that stupid he played through it. I do understand treatment and everything. He probably could have lasted longer, but he was dealing with them back problems from years, though. I think he'd have retired early regardless, in my opinion. Now, me, if I was her, I probably would have told the medical team, but I probably would ask, like, hey, can I still play through this, though? Like, I would have said that. I still would have mentioned it, but I can understand from Larry Bird's situation. Like, he don't want nobody knowing about his injuries, because think about it. Larry Bird, he's in his prime, by the way. This is during his prime, by the way. He had a championship caliber team. Well, I don't know about the late 80s, but I know for sure mid 80s. You being out is kind of hurting the team, so I understand him not saying anything. I understand. I wish he did say something, though, but I wouldn't say that was stupid. I wouldn't say that.
To his reputation of being a, quote, tough guy, it was honestly a stupid thing to do. Had he sought out treatment earlier, maybe his career would have lasted longer. So, while this was all a terrible situation for the Celtics, it wasn't supposed to be a chronic issue. Just like with his back problem, they expected Bird to brush it off and come back and play just as well as before, and return back to his superstar self prior to the surgery. But what really happened was that Bird was never the same again. And following his return in the next year, drama within the organization started to develop. At the start of the 1989-90 season, Bird was supposedly healthy, but his actual game severely deteriorated. His scoring became a lot less efficient. He started settling for a lot more jump shots because the foot surgery hampered his athleticism. The way he used to easily blow by players was rarely seen anymore, if at all. Bird's once smooth, once agile playstyle became very rugged and predictable. He was also 33 years old at this point, which certainly did not help. In this season, he still averaged about 24 points a game, but on the lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year.
Wait, that's bad? Wait, that's bad? This man pretty much averaged 24 points a game, 10 rebounds, 8 assists on 47% shooting. That's not bad. Now, the three-point percentage, okay, 33%, okay, that's not great. That's decent, I guess. But 47%, like, come on. Even though he said that was his worst since his rookie year, like, come on. The man still almost shot 50% from the field. It's not that bad. Well, it's not bad at all, to be honest. It's really not bad. That's funny. This right here just shows how great Larry Bird is. These stats right here is a bad season. If you just think about that, these stats right here is some players' best season of their career, but this season in this video is considered bad. I think that's hilarious. I think this just show how great Larry Bird was.
Which certainly did not help. In this season, he still averaged about 24 points a game, but on the lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year. Nonetheless, there was plenty of drama all season long within the Celtics organization, primarily centered around Bird's role on the team. Everyone knew he was starting to slow down, so head coach Jimmy Rogers started to shift away from a Bird-centric offense. Instead, he opted to move towards a more team-oriented playstyle. He increased their pace, now being in the upper half of the league, as opposed to previous years when they were one of the more slower teams. This proved to be a difficult adjustment for Larry, and analysts at the time attributed his struggles to not being able to keep up, and the high-tempo play took a toll on his already beaten body. However, it was the addition of Jim Paxson as their new starting point guard, which was really the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only was Paxson 35 years old, which really didn't help their fast style of play, but he also had regular confrontations with Bird.
Now, I never heard of this guy before that he's talking about, but to increase your pace on a team, I'm not saying this guy was a bad player. Now, I don't know who he was, but if you want to increase your pace as a team, you don't sign a 35-year-old. Like, what? What? Now, 25-year-old, that makes sense, but 35? Ain't no way. You usually sign 35-year-olds if you're trying to slow down your offense, but 35 and you're trying to increase the pace, I don't know if that's a great idea. Usually, younger teams have higher pace compared to, like, older teams. Usually be like the younger teams that have higher paces. So, I understand the coach wanted, like, more team-oriented with Larry Bird, though, because think about it. You increase the pace, you get more fast break transition points. Like, I understand you get more people to ball. Like, I get it, but I don't know if that fit this play style for this. Especially you gonna sign a 35-year-old. That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me.
But he also had regular confrontations with Bird. At one point, Paxson publicly talked about Bird's poor shot selection, and even said he was, quote, hogging the ball, even though Bird still led the team in assists. Paxson was even quoted saying Bird was tearing the team apart. This article by Nick Gelso on Bleacher Report described the situation quite well. Truth be told, Larry was forcing poor shots as a result of the team's lack of offensive chemistry. Rogers was pushing an up-tempo style of play with a 35-year-old point guard. As a result, and to Bird's discord, Dennis Johnson was forced to the bench, being replaced by an overweight playmaker named John Bagley. Confrontations between Bird and Rogers and the rest of the coaching staff became commonplace.
This is my first time ever hearing a story about this. About Larry Bird, Jim Paxson, and the coaching staff. This is my first time hearing about that. Wow. Yeah, but that makes no sense though. That goes back to what I said earlier. If you want to increase your tempo, why you sign a 35-year-old? That makes no sense to me.
Confrontations between Bird and Rogers and the rest of the coaching staff became commonplace. Eventually, it reached to the higher levels of management too. Some of his teammates would talk poorly of him and that the team would be better off without him, which was, an absolute joke. But even Celtics fans were starting to get impatient. Although his teammates and coaches might have been a bit harsh, it was true that Bird was not the same player he once was. Anyway, the Celtics would finish the season with a 52-30 record. Still, a respectable record for all the tension and drama surrounding the team all year. The first round of the 1990 playoffs was a doozy. The 4-5
So they still was good? That's funny. 52-30, yeah, they sound like they still was good. I want to say elite, but they still was very good, though. I'm thinking they played bad. They was 52-30. Now, I give they was 30-52 with all them problems, but they was 50-32. Title of the video is The Ugly Truth of Larry Bird's Downfall. Ain't really nothing down about it, really. The only thing down about this video is that he retired early. Everything else really is not bad. That's funny, though.
The first round of the 1990 playoffs was a doozy. The 4-5 matchup has always been the most competitive series, and this time it was no exception. The Celtics got out to a 2-0 lead, and then they lost 3 in a row, losing the series and ultimately ending this tumultuous season. Overall, his final 2 years were an absolute mess. When Larry played, the Celtics still looked like a top-notch team, but when he sat out due to injuries, the team looked quite poor. And he sat out quite often. The back problems flared up numerous times, causing him to get another surgery in 1991. At this point of his career, Bird was done, and it was evident by his 1991 playoff run. The Celtics were on a roll, but Bird himself was having a horrible time, especially in the second round against Detroit. The Pistons were always a thorn on his side, but this time they really shut him down. Bird averaged a pitiful 13 points a game on horrendous shooting.
Okay, speaking of it, okay, now that was bad. Now that's bad. Now that's bad. Yeah, right here, this one he was done. Yeah, this one the downfall started. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, he was done. That's tough. Man, he averaged 13 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 38% shooting from the field, and 29% shooting from 3. Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, he was done. By this time he was done. They absolutely shut him down, but he was done. Right here, yeah, he was done.
Celtics analysts and reporters attributed this to his back problems, but it was a combination of that and his age, and the Pistons being determined to knock him out. By 1992, Bird was officially done and retired by the age of 34. He would become part of a small handful of players who retired despite averaging over 20 points per game in his final season. At the end of the day, even though Bird drastically slowed down compared to his prime, he was still a star. In his worst years, he was at the forefront of the league and still competed with the best of the best. When he got invited to the 1992 Dream Team, the first US Olympic team to accept NBA players, the players joked about how washed up he was. And of course, he wasn't very effective in the actual Olympics. Regardless, the latter part of Bird's career was a roller coaster. But despite all of that, despite his relatively short career compared to other all-time greats, Bird is still considered one of the best of all time, a legendary player who changed the game of basketball.
Facts, he is. Larry Bird is still considered one of the greatest players ever. In my opinion, he's top 10 in NBA history.
One of the best of all time, a legendary player who changed the game of basketball. In an era dominated by fast-paced athleticism and quickness, Bird was more mellow and dominated with his wits and trickery. He's arguably the greatest passer at the small forward position we've ever seen. Only LeBron James has an argument to be a better passer than Larry, but it's debatable. Perhaps it was his lack of longevity that really hurts him in the all-time rankings. If he lasted as long as someone like LeBron or Kareem or Tim Duncan, and never suffered all those devastating back issues, there's a real chance that Larry could have been the greatest of all time. He had all the talents, all the skills and extravagance to do so. Anyway, that's all folks,
I agree, it definitely would have been interesting to see, like, how his career would have turned out if he played longer. I don't know if he would have been, like, in a debate for, like, the greatest ever. I think he would have been in a debate for, like, top 5, though. But he was elite. Larry Bird was an absolute beast. Man, I hate injuries, though. I can't stand injuries. So many great players in NBA history careers ended early because of injuries. I hate injuries, dog.
And extravagance to do so. Anyway, that's all folks, that sums up the unfortunate downfall of Larry Bird towards the twilight of his career. Let me know your thoughts on Larry and how much further would his legacy progress if he didn't suffer those injuries. The last few years of his career are rarely talked about because they're quite underwhelming, but I wanted to shed some light on what really happened with his demise. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.
Shout out to Andy Hoops for this video. It was very interesting. Like he said, a lot of people don't talk about the end of Larry Bird's career. This is my first time ever hearing about the end of his career. He had problems with the coaching staff, problems with Jim Paxson. This is my first time ever even hearing of Jim Paxson. It's rare you hear stories about the end of his career. This is my first time. So this video is definitely eye-opening. And so comment down below your thoughts about this video, your thoughts about Larry Bird, your thoughts about Larry Bird late in his career. What are your thoughts about Larry Bird if he didn't suffer a lot of those injuries and he played longer in the NBA. I'm just curious to see what you all think. Furthermore, like and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell so you will never miss another video from me. And I hope everyone have a blessed day. I'm out.